A very good evening from the KTN News Center. It is the 2nd day of June 2015, just in time for KTN Prime. We have the latest for you from new traffic directions from the Chief Justice to new developments at the World Football Governing Body FIFA.
Also tonight on KTN Prime, we will be focusing on the new NHIF rates. And to help us understand what is going on, we will be speaking to NAS Secretary General Wilson Sossion, who's already in studio with us to help us understand some of their concerns with the new rates and if indeed there is a way forward. You're watching KTN Prime. We thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at our top stories tonight.
Welcome to KTN Prime. I'm Ben Kitili.
I'm Lindah Oguttu. Thank you for joining us. Marisha Witi is our sign language interpreter. You're watching KTN Prime. We thank you for staying with us. On the backdrop of that story that has been done by Rita Tinina, let's see if we can clear the air just a little bit for you to understand what's going on. In studio, we have Education Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi to clear the air and help us understand what is going on. Waziri, thank you for joining us on KTN Prime. Stay with me because I understand on the line we have Wilson Sossion, NAT Secretary General. Bwana Sossion, thank you for calling in. You've listened in to what the Waziri had to say. What are your thoughts on some of the things he has had to say here, because he says NAT and Kupet were consulted before this regulation was gazetted?
Indeed, the process was mishandled, and this the minister should admit. When he brought a bunch of county directors to shout at us and to force a process, then that is not consultation. Where we are at the moment, we no longer have interest in Kaimenyi because the stakeholders to him is some few individuals in the civil society and some people masquerading as parents. Kaimenyi should open up and work with everyone. That is
Mr. Sossion, hold on.
And, yes.
Mr. Sossion, hold on. Let me see if I'm getting what you're trying to say. You're saying these regulations were gazetted before there was consensus from all stakeholders.
Exactly.
Earning between 20,000 to about 24,000, you're paying 750, and if you're earning 100,000 and above, then you end up paying NHIF 1,700 shillings per month. Now, these amounts have raised a lot of concern because initially Kenyans were paying 320 per month. That has been since 1988 when the rates were last reviewed. In studio, I have Wilson Sossion. He is the NAS Secretary General, but for purposes of this discussion, he is the Trade Unions Congress chairman. We'd like to let you know that we invited a representative from NHIF. They declined our invite. Mr. Sossion, thank you for joining us on KTN Prime. What are your concerns with the new NHIF rates?
Yeah, thank you. The new NHIF rates, one, are unconstitutional.
Joseph Olelenko, of course, out of that security docket. That has been the demand of several Kenyans. Mwenda Mijiwe, security analyst, is in the studio with me. Mwenda, what do you think about the short stint of Joseph Olelenko in office?
Well, truth be said, I think he was one of the most sincerest ministers we heard, only that he was a bit sincerely wrong. But nonetheless, like every Kenyan, I think he gave his best. And as I said earlier, his best was not good enough and just had to give space to someone else.
Indeed, that's someone else that he is giving space to is Joseph Nkaissery, who has been nominated by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course, that is pending approval by Parliament. We will, of course, keep an eye on this and see how this unfolds. If indeed he will get that approval. But apart from just representing his people in the National Assembly, Joseph Nkaissery is a man who has a tough background. There may be several reasons, indeed, why President Uhuru Kenyatta may have nominated him for this very tough docket. Let's take a look at the positions that Joseph Nkaissery has held so far. Mwenda is here with me because some of the positions that Nkaissery has held will probably help him if indeed he gets the parliamentary approval for this particular post. Mwenda, between 1982, Joseph Nkaissery was the combat instructor of the Kenyan Army. 1986, he was the battalion second in command of the Kenya Army. Why are these two posts very important for this man now?
With Kenya being in war, we need a minister who understands combat, who understands war, and him being a combat instructor, he prepared the armies for war, raw war. I mean, war games. So this is very important to have a minister of that nature. Being the second in command of the Kenya Army Battalion, it means he was privy to very intimate and very personal military issues and national security affairs that someone in a security docket needs to be aware of when he's commanding.
Of course, this was during the Moi era.
This was don't forget these were men that were trained. Anyone who worked very, closely with Moi up there was trained thoroughly in this sector.
The Commander-in-Chief may have meant well. Legal minds, however, say his directive is against the law. He may be the head of state, but he is not above the law.
He assumes power pursuant to the procedure set by law. So how can he be above that very mechanism that sets out the mechanisms through which he assumes power?
The President's directive goes against the rule of law, which in its most basic form is a principle that no one is above the law. The most important application of the rule of law is the principle that governmental authority is legitimately exercised only in accordance with written, publicly disclosed laws adopted and enforced in accordance with established procedural steps that are referred to as due process. The principle is intended to be a safeguard against arbitrary governance.
Part of the indicators of the rule of law in a society is that courts function independently without fear of reprimand, and number two, court orders are complied with.